Ms. Giovanni, my first question for you is, how far do you think America has come since the Civil Rights Movement, and how far do you think we have to go?
Well, the Constitution, as you know, is a living document. And I think as I look at, and I'm in South Carolina and aware of that, at some of our conservative states, one of the big fights right now happens to be about gay marriage, as if it mattered to somebody who somebody sleeps with. And so I'm really, bored with that. And I teach writing, and my class and I are looking for language, because we don't, it's what we discussed. I teach the Tuesday, Thursday. It's what we discussed last class because, Virginia had one of their, I teach in Virginia Tech, and we had one of the headlines were husband and husband. And I was offended by that, and I said that to my class. I'm offended by husband and husband, because husband is a function, as was wife. And you remember one of the big fights was, I now pronounce you man and wife. So I pronounce you human being and function. And obviously we're going to have to do something about that. It's clearly a fight that the black community has to take up. I don't say we cannot, simply because at one point we were not allowed to marry even people who were black of what would be considered the opposite sex. We had to jump the broom because the right to be married meant that you had to be a human being and accorded certain respect. I live in the state of Virginia where loving versus loving, where a white man was not allowed to marry a black woman. They clearly, and we can look around this room and any other in America, and clearly they didn't care who slept with whom, and they didn't care who had children with whom. They simply cared who married whom. And as I said to my class, much to their unhappiness, if indeed you are what you eat, which is what I've been told, there's not a white person in America because they've all been suckled by black women.
And it's been 50 years, a half a century, since Dr. King accepted the Nobel Peace Prize. But when I spoke to college students, they had no idea. How important is it for this generation to remember some of the struggles that you may have faced growing up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and what we see displayed on television today, like in Ferguson and some other places?
Well, we just keep going back. America needs to grow up, and we need leadership. I've been incredibly disappointed. I saw a statistic the other day that said 1 in 7 people are sorry that they voted for Barack Obama. I would be one of those one. I've been incredibly unhappy that he hasn't led an ethical, his leadership has not been ethical. So he actually hasn't done anything that George Bush didn't do. And if you think about where we are now, we're sending drones out, we're doing that. But he's not reminding people this is where we've come from and this is where we're going. And America is not about, or should not be, about territory, and we've been perpetually at war. Here we are in Orangeburg. I remember the Orangeburg massacre. These children were not born doing that, and we don't want them growing up scared. But how can you not be aware of the fact that policemen are still carrying guns, as if somehow that makes everybody safe? What kind of stupidity is that? And we need some leadership on that. We need somebody to start talking about where are we going to go in the 22nd century. And I'm disappointed that Barack has not taken up that challenge.